So we all experience criticism to some extent, okay? That is part of the human experience. But for those of us who are walking the path of purpose and that path is very visible, it's very public, that criticism is always going to be amplified. Whether you're starting your own business or you're hosting a podcast channel or you're just creating content online, this puts you in a very vulnerable position, right? You're essentially exposing yourself on a world stage. The more visible you are, the more you express yourself, the more you put yourself out there, the more opinions you'll attract. This video is for my girls who are, for example, aspiring entrepreneurs, or you're working with social media a lot, you post on social media, you have some kind of business, or maybe you're just, being your authentic badass self, expressing yourself as you should, then this one is for you, sis. When we step into the spotlight, when we have a career that's very visible and it's public and it requires us to use our vision to speak our truth, it is imperative that we learn how to handle criticism the right way. And what we're not going to do is we're not going to let it scare us into submission, okay? If you want to do something, if you want to be someone, then you go out there and you do it and you be that person. Baddies, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, thank you for joining me today. This is That's the Tea on Life. Oh, my name is Sanam, I forgot to mention, but here on this channel, we pretty much, well, I guess it's more like me, but I'm showing you how to glow up mentally, physically, and spiritually, okay? Pretty much glowing up in every way, shape, or form, so that you can become the version of you who is confident, who is authentic, who is empowered, all right? So that you can live your life in the most iconic and amazing way. So if you caught my last video, I spoke about how to shift limiting beliefs, overcome that fear, shift limiting beliefs so that you can step up, okay, as the most empowered boss bitch version of you. And I guess this is kind of like a follow-up video of that, because one of the biggest beliefs that I had to rewire in myself was my belief around unworthiness. What sparked this particular message today is that I'm finally at a point in my life now where I realized, okay, my dreams in life, my goals require me to step up as the fullest expression of who I am. There's no room for hiding or shrinking or toning it down or apologizing for being too much. It's time to be big, bright, and bold, okay? Real Leo energy. And that is always going to come with criticism from the outside. And I guess that got me reflecting on the thought of, okay, how well would I be able to handle that criticism now? Now that I have this newfound confidence and self-trust, would I be more resilient? How would I handle a situation? And so that reflecting inspired the topic of today's video, because I'm always going to make videos that are centered on a topic that I've already kind of worked through or I'm currently working through and reflecting on. And look, guys, I could sit here and I could say that I don't care about judgment, I don't care about people criticizing me because I'm a boss, but that would be a lie, because I do. There's still a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of me that does care a little bit, okay? And that's okay. I'm gonna own that. There's nothing wrong with that. These days, I really embrace just being messy and imperfect and raw and understanding that that's good enough. So yeah, I'm constantly on this journey of building that foundation, that inner foundation of trust and confidence and self-worth, so that I can show up as the woman I'm meant to be, so that when criticism comes, when judgment comes, when I don't feel supported or believed in by people, I'm gonna keep pushing, because I got a place to get to and I'm gonna get there regardless. It's okay to be fearful of that criticism and be sensitive towards it while still continuing to show up anyway. I used to feel like I had to hide the fact that I was scared of it. I needed to pretend that I just didn't give a damn and that I was just a strong, badass bitch that, no one can F with. But I am still that girl, but I'm continuing to show up anyway. And what that looks like for me is from creating the concept of my video all the way to actually editing it and posting it online. There's always this little voice in my head that's telling me that I'm either being too much and I need to tone it down, or that I'm not being enough, I need to add more. And there's always this instinctive need to perfect and overanalyze and overthink, and that is because for so long I've associated perfection with safety. So for me right now, it's about accepting that I still have that insecurity, but choosing to show up anyway and choosing to not accept that as my truth, because I know the truth, and the truth is that People don't want perfect, people want real. I realized that I don't need to hide my true self to be safe anymore. My true self will be admired and acknowledged and loved by the right people, the people that are meant to see this video, the people that I find in my everyday personal life. So I'm good, I'm Gucci. So kicking off this video, I just want to say the most important thing for you girls to know is to understand your why. Why are you doing the things that you're doing? Why are you showing up and posting on social media? Why did you start that business? Why did you start that podcast channel? Why did you decide to start showing up as, you know, more of your authentic self? Why did you do what you did, right? Understand what that is, understand that why, and stick by it firmly, because the more you believe in your why, the less negative comments and criticism is going to affect you. A pivotal moment for me was when I decided to sit with every thought, every idea, every opinion, every belief I had before I decided to, like, you know, verbalize it out into the world, because I wanted to make sure that I fully believed in it. I wanted to make sure that these things were resonating within every being, every cell of my being, right? Every fiber of my being, god damn it. But you know what I mean? I wanted to feel it so strongly, so that if I was ever questioned or what I was saying was questioned, I wasn't gonna crumble or doubt myself. And I'm not saying that we should be closed off to that constructive criticism and we should just think that we're always right 24/7, because that's obviously not healthy. I guess it's all about having a sense of discernment between, like, okay, is there truth behind what this person is saying, and should I actually listen to them? Like, can I work with this? Or is this person just being mean? Is this person just projecting whatever they're projecting onto me right now? And everyone is going to agree with you, and everyone is going to stand by you or support you. So you need to do that for yourself. You need to believe in yourself fully. And I feel like the best way to believe in yourself fully is to believe in what you're doing. Like, it's for a reason, it's for a purpose. You need to be obsessed with yourself. You need to be a total diva. And the thing is, the reason behind your why has to be for a genuine cause. If your why is because you want to get rich and famous, you want the stats, you want the money, this puts you at a major disadvantage, in my opinion, and it just doesn't feel nice. I mean, listen, when that's your why, you're motivated to please rather than like a sense of inner fulfillment or a sense of doing something for the greater good. When your why is coming from that place, you're more susceptible to the criticism. You're more susceptible to backlash, because you want to give people what they want, right? Rather than coming from a place of self-expression, I suppose. And not to mention that why is very empty. I feel like your why should have like a sense of fire and passion behind what you're doing. The reason why I started YouTube, the reason why I want to start a business, or I'm in the process of starting a business, is because I want to help people. I want to make people feel good about themselves. You know, particularly women. I want to show women that, you know, the version of themselves that they want to be, that is totally accessible for them, that is totally achievable for them, and the life that they desire, that is a life that they deserve. I'm all about, you know, helping people transmute that pain into power, guiding the way, showing them the light, you know, reminding them of who the F they are, right? So that's my thing. But also I want to, like, it's coming from a place of inner fulfillment, in the sense of, yes, I get to be creative, I get to express. It's literally my purpose in life. Doing life the way that I guess society has paved out, you know, like, this is how you should live, this is what you got to do to be successful, get a 9-to-5, work, hustle, get married, blah, 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 blah. Doing all those things in the way that life wants me to do them just doesn't work for me, that recipe, right? The way that I want to do things isn't the usual recipe, but it makes me happy, it makes me feel good. Not a lot of people are going to understand why I do the things I do. I do them because they make me feel good, and that's not really something that I have to explain to people. We discuss the difference between constructive criticism and destructive criticism, because there is a difference. And what I'm focusing on, is, you know, I've already said, is that destructive criticism, because it doesn't serve us. Constructive criticism is serving us, because, like, it gives us something that we can work with. It's very specific, it points to something, and it makes sense. We're not left feeling confused, because with that destructive criticism, it's usually very vague. It doesn't usually point to our work or anything specific that we can take actionable steps towards fixing. It just points to, like, us, or it's just an undermining kind of comment. Like, it's there to devalue, shame, belittle, make you feel like it's there to make them feel more powerful. All right, that's the intention. And this is the thing, you've got to think about, like, these people, they're sad people, all right? So they want to make you feel sad. because that's probably the only thing that's going to make them feel better, because somehow it puts them up. The timing is always going to be at the worst timing possible. It's usually when you're celebrating, you're feeling good, or you're in like a really vulnerable position. These people are always going to attack when it's like a weak point for you, right? Whereas constructive criticism, also it's going to come from people who, you know, they know you. If they don't know you, they respect you. Maybe they're in your line of work, or they respect what you have to say. It's going to be very balanced, right? With destructive criticism, it's very emotionally charged. It's harsh. It's sarcastic. It doesn't matter if it's online or in person. You're always going to like get a vibe. And the other thing is where we're at within ourselves emotionally, how we feel about ourselves, our sense of self-worth, how grounded we are, and also our filters and our belief system severely affect how we receive both these types of criticism. When we're grounded in our emotions, when we know who we are, we have healthy belief systems that support us, that constructive criticism, not only do we receive it well, but we actually really appreciate it, because we're more likely to have a growth mindset about us. We actually want to do better. We want to learn, we want to grow. And even that destructive criticism, it's probably still going to hurt, but we're definitely like so much more resilient towards it, and we're not going to absorb it as much. Okay, because it's not going to tie into our self-narrative, our self-concept. Whereas when you have someone who is insecure, has a lower sense of self-worth or confidence, they need people's validation, and they have limiting beliefs, a very limiting self-concept around themselves, then this ain't good. That constructive criticism can affect you badly. I used to be in such a bad place. Even when someone was giving me some advice, and I knew they were just trying to help me, I would immediately kind of just like, you know, tie it into my story anyway, my self-concept, because it was so sad. This is what I mean by those filters, all right? Our filters, our belief system, they distort what's happening around us. They tell us a certain story that fits into the story we hold around ourselves, even if it's not the case. So someone could be like very supportive of you and have a very balanced kind of comment, but they're actually like giving you something constructive to work on, which is great. But in your head, you could be like, oh my God, I knew what, I was stupid. I can't do anything, I'm worthless. This is coming from a true story, because girl, I was that girl. Obviously that destructive criticism is even worse and actually stops us from showing up the way that we can or that we should, because we're fearful of it. And that fear of criticism, it's not so much a fear of criticism, right? It's more so fear of a deeper wound or insecurity that we have. We're scared that, you know, that wound or insecurity is going to come out. It's like people are going to see that part of us that we're trying to hide. If deep down we don't think that we're capable enough or that we're good enough, we're going to kind of minimize ourselves or like tone it down or shrink ourselves, because it's so scary to put yourself out there when you have that belief around yourself, because in your head all the time, you're kind of constantly going back to this idea of like, oh my God, if I do this, people are going to say that I'm stupid or that I can't do shit or that I'm not good enough. And you just don't want to hear that from people, because it hurts to hear that truth. Like, it's like you don't want to believe that it's true, but your brain, because of your beliefs, is telling you that it's true. So that's kind of like what you're avoiding. That's what you're scared of, right? And what's also really helpful to understand is that our brain is literally wired for survival and for detecting threats. So when we're triggered by that criticism, that trigger is actually something very ancestral, okay? Because our ancestors, if they were, you know, cut off or rejected from the tribe, that meant that you were basically dead. If you were like outcasted, you needed your tribe or your group to survive. So if they were like, all right, bitch, you're cut, then there's no way you could survive by yourself. You know what I'm saying? And so the way that we perceive that judgment in today's age is like very much the same kind of vibe. So it's this instinctive response of like, oh my God, I'm gonna die kind of thing, which is obviously not true. But when I learned about this, it made me feel so much better about myself, because I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm not too sensitive. This is literally something that's like ingrained into my DNA. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about how we can stop replaying negative criticism in our head and how to stop looping it, all right? Because as someone with ADHD, this is something that I'm somewhat of a professional of, I guess you could say. It's not a fun profession. The reason why you're replaying it is because it's triggered something deeper, okay? And now your job is to find out what it is that it's actually triggered, and to focus on that trigger, on that pain point, rather than the loop itself. This shifts your attention to actually healing and, you know, nurturing that pain point, which in turn actually dissolves the loop. You know, you don't loop as much because that pain, that belief, that wound, that insecurity isn't as aggressive, right? You've tamed it, you're tending to it, you're more aware of it. So it's like the loop doesn't have this like, its fangs in you. One of the hardest things I've had to deal with being an ADHD person is thought regulation and just overthinking a lot and being really in my head. It's not a fun time, but thankfully my saving grace has been my self-awareness. When I notice these thoughts, because I do all the time, self-aware as hell, I immediately shut it down, right? And I'm like, okay, firstly, what is the point of me thinking this? Right, let's choose something that actually has a point, because I know that me looping this and thinking about it over and over and over again is just hurting me. There's no actual purpose for this, right? I'm literally self-inflicting right now. So I need to stop. Let me just choose a thought. Let me interrupt this pattern and pick up a new thought that does serve me, that actually has a point, that supports me, that nourishes me, and let's move it on. It's about actively choosing whether or not I want to engage with this thought. Do I want to play ball with this thought right now? No, I don't. And you know, the need to play ball with this thought is still going to be there because it's like, it's a habit, right? It's like an ADHD thing as well, I guess. But you know, it's not something that I acknowledge. I acknowledge it, right? But I'm not feeding into it. And these negative comments, judgment, whatever anyone wants to throw at you is really just a projection of this other person. And every single person on this planet is so unique, and they have like their own sense of conditioning, their own experiences, their own belief system, all these intricate things that somehow make up their perception of you, which is going to be through a totally different lens, a totally different filter than the other person. If you've been doing the inner work, and if you watch my last video on how to overcome that fear and shift your limiting beliefs, you'll have an understanding around the fact that our beliefs shape our behaviors and the way that we interact with the world and the actions that we take. So when you have someone that has healthy and supportive beliefs, they're going to have healthy and supportive behaviors. When you have someone who has negative, unhealthy beliefs, limiting beliefs, they're going to have those negative, unhealthy behaviors. Just think about it like this. If you have someone who is criticizing you, who is bullying you, who is shaming you, who is trying to make you feel less than, when you've done nothing wrong, how do you think this person feels about themselves deep down? For them to actually actively, consciously choose to say these things, to attack you like this, how do you think they feel about themselves? They don't feel good. They don't want you to feel good either. They want to bring you down to their level. These are very sad people. What do you think this says about their awareness, their level of empathy, their level of compassion, their level of understanding, their level of humanity? Okay, a lot of people lack that these days, which is really, really sad. When I see people lacking these traits, I immediately have zero respect for them, because why the hell would I respect someone like you? And why would I listen to a word that you're saying? When you're this kind of person, why would I listen to your beliefs, your truth, your opinions, your values, the way that you see the world? Is obviously not something that I want to align with. It's not something that I think is supportive of me and my growth, or something that I can stand by. So, bye. And this doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt. It's probably still gonna hurt. I mean, at least for me, I know it probably still hurt, because as I said, I'm a sensitive ass bitch. But it just means that I'm not going to absorb it. And at the end of the day, people who hate on others are always going to hate themselves, because they're professional haters, and that's the only thing they know how to do. When these people see you be and do what they aren't or can't, this is very triggering for these people. So just keep that in mind. Someone who has a multi-million-dollar business is not going to be hating on someone for starting up a business venture, all right, or a small-time business who's trying to like build up, okay? Someone who is, you know, monetized on YouTube or TikTok or whatever, and they're making money from social media, is not going to be hating on someone who has just started gaining the confidence to post more online. It's always the people that can't do it, whether that's like an emotional block or like mental block, whatever. They don't have the courage to do it. They're too insecure. So when they see people doing what they really want to deep down, but they can't for whatever dumb reason, they're like, you can't do that. Someone who is secure in themselves, who is happy, who is healthy, who is a grounded person, is not going to be engaging in low vibrational behavior like hating, okay? So just keep that in mind when you get a comment. Just look at the type of comment it is, look at what they're saying, look at the tone, the energy around it. It's going to tell you so much about that person. And then honestly, just think about whether or not you want to like, you know, take advice from a person like that. So, and I'm sure most of you are probably thinking, okay, well, how can I actually respond to that criticism, right? Because this is where it gets really tricky, especially for me. Like, I'm a very fiery, very feisty kind of gal, in case you couldn't catch that already. So this has definitely been my biggest obstacle when it comes to criticism. There's no one size fits all option. It depends on who's saying it. It depends on what's being said, and it depends on where you're at emotionally, okay? It depends on the boundaries that you have the capacity to set. It just depends on how well you're equipped to deal with the situation at that point in time. I don't fully agree with the idea of, you know, staying silent. I believe in the power of the clapback, only when you're not giving up or draining your energy, okay? Because this is when we give our power away. So, you know, we want to be able to clap back and speak our truth, but, you know, doing it in a way that is very grounded, staying emotionally detached from how emotionally charged we might feel, which is why it does help sometimes to walk away and then revisit the issue later on. And look, if it's a random person, someone you don't know, someone online, don't even bother, because, you know, there are comments, there are people out there that just aren't worth the time. I definitely stand by that. Online, it's way easier to practice detachment. The power of pause is a very powerful thing, like pausing before we react. And again, that is easier done when we're facing criticism online, because we have that space between ourselves and the other person. So we can take a day off and revisit it, right? We don't have to fight back immediately, but in the moment when we're with someone physically, this is where it can be a little bit tricky. For me, I tend to freeze because I don't know like how to react, or I'll like get a bit chippy, you know what I'm saying? So that is something that I've had to learn how to navigate. The best advice I can give you guys is honestly, you know, assert yourself and place that boundary while, as I said before, staying detached from that emotional charge, all right? So that we're not coming from aggression or like being triggered or saying something that we just don't want to say, or we feel like we could have said better. Because I'm definitely that girl who might snap back in the moment, and then in the shower I'm like, damn, like that actually would have been a really good way to say things or go about things, because clarity always comes to me a little bit later. But you also have the option of just walking away completely, because who gives a damn, right? Like, no one is stopping you. If you feel like this person has disrespected you, you feel uncomfortable, you know, then walk away if you have that option, if you feel called to do so. In the worst circumstance, the criticism can come from someone very close to us, maybe like a friend or someone, right? They say something, it does hurt, and in that situation you want to actually reflect on it a little bit deeper and see if this person is actually someone that you want to keep in your life. If they continue to cross emotional boundaries, they continue to disrespect your feelings, it's very telling about the person they are and how they feel about you, right? Of course, as friends, like, we all make mistakes. We're human beings. Sometimes we say things that maybe in our head, like, we had a good intention. We have bad days. We're in bad moods sometimes, you know? So it's up to you how much leeway you want to give this person and how important they are to you, and, you know, whatever. But if it's someone like a parent, this is where it gets hard, because we can't, it's a lot harder to cut off a parent. We can't really do that. I mean, we can, but there's a lot. That's a lot, right? Kind of minimize how much their voice, how much their opinion affects you, how much value you hold around their opinion. And that is really sad, you know, because parents especially, their opinion is meant to mean the most, and it's meant to be very supportive and encouraging. They're meant to be like our number one supporters. But unfortunately for so many of us, we just don't have that joy. My mum is amazing. Both my mum and my nan have both been amazing pillars of support. Doesn't matter what I'm doing, doesn't matter what phase of life I'm in, they're always so supportive of me, which I'm like so grateful for. Can't really say the same about my dad, but we don't really care about him, so his opinion is invalid anyway. Clapping back and standing up for yourself doesn't always have to be loud and aggressive. I used to associate those things with confidence, and I would always clap back in a way that was very like aggressive, right? Because I wanted to feel strong, I wanted to feel powerful, I wanted to give off this image of, yeah, she's a confident baddie who doesn't take any shit kind of thing. The more you try to project a certain image, it's mostly because you're afraid that people won't see that side of you because you don't fully believe in that part of you, if it makes sense. So I didn't fully believe that I was a baddie. I fully didn't believe that I was confident or felt good about myself. Like I lacked a lot of those things, and I was constantly kind of projecting or like trying to emphasize a bigger image so that I could kind of mask, right? And so in those moments where I felt weak, someone was attacking me, right, I was like, okay, well, I need to attack them more. I need to be more loud, more aggressive, more powerful, because that's going to make me feel better. It's going to show them like who's the boss kind of thing. And I feel like this is very like a standard way of going about criticism, right? As people, when we receive that very aggressive energy, we want to outdo it, right? We want to one-up them. It's very human nature of us, I think. Clapping back, standing up for yourself can literally just look like having a calm conversation, okay? It can look like walking away. It can look like cutting someone off, right? It can look like not having to explain yourself if you don't want to. A huge lesson that I had to learn last year was how to pause before reacting. And that was hard because, as I just previously mentioned, I used to believe that my power was in proving a point, in clapping back aggressively. Let me just give you some context on how I learned this lesson and my experience with it. So last year, make a video about it. I'm not sure, like you might have seen it, I don't know. But I worked as a skimpy, right? And a skimpy is basically a barmaid in lingerie. So I would work in all these different pubs all around the state. It's just like a unique job to the area of Australia that I live in WA. So I travel all around the state to all these different types of pubs. And you know, this job was really great for me financially. It was a really good stepping stone. It really helped me get to where I had to get to, right? And I ticked off all my goals. But emotionally and mentally, by the end of it, it really did destroy me, because you can imagine the types of men that came into these pubs. And when you're in this environment, when you're around these types of men, you are a constant target for criticism. All the way from, you know, how you look, right? Your appearance, your body, your personality, your work ethic, how you're pouring a beer is constantly under the target, okay? Nothing is ever good enough. There's always something. There's always some kind of comment or remark or just some BS. And look, one thing about me is that I am the type of girl who genuinely does not give a damn about what a man wants, okay? What a man thinks is attractive. Look, if we're in a relationship or something, or you're someone special to me, then, you know, of course I'm going to take your feelings into consideration. But for the vast majority of like 98% of men, I don't care about what they think. I don't care about the beauty standard. I don't care about what they think is attractive, blah, 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 blah. Of course I care about my appearance. Of course I care about looking beautiful, all right? But in a way that is authentic to me, in a way that makes me feel good about myself, in a way that empowers me. But for an entire year, I was in a space where men felt entitled to throw their opinions at me, constantly telling me how I should behave, how I should be acting, what I should be wearing, how I should be living my life. Am I not ashamed to be working this kind of job? Oh my God, I have no life. Like, just the most horrible types of things you can ever imagine. I'm telling you right now. I don't know how I survived this job. And I was constantly triggered. I don't think anyone wouldn't be triggered. I was triggered from a place not of insecurity, but from a place of collective trauma. A collective wound that women share around objectification and belittlement, being misunderstood, being objectified, the injustice, the misogyny that women experience every single day. I felt like that was just, as a woman, that is something that I carry. And I think it's something that most women carry to some extent. It's very healed now. I've done a lot of work around that wound. I think it's something that will only be fully healed throughout generations. But last year I really did go through a rough patch with it, and that job was the cause, obviously. So, you know, I was coming from this place of aggression, of rage, of sarcasm. Like, I was literally waiting for these men to say something so I could attack, right? The vibe was very much like, yeah, I'm gonna tell them something. Like, I'm gonna make them wish they were never born. I'm gonna make them wish they never tried me in the first place. They never met a woman like me. I'm gonna tell, you know, like, just very much that beat. And you know, I thought this would empower me. I thought that by clapping back, by fighting with them, you know, by just giving it to them. Damn, girl. I thought I was gonna, sorry, someone was beeping out there. I thought by giving it to them, I was gonna actually give myself my power back. But it did not do that. All it did was drain me. It made me feel icky. It made me feel very just like not nice. It was not a nice feeling. I was constantly giving my energy away. And for what? That is what they wanted. These men were rage baiting me. I came to realize that half the time, if not like 80% of the time, these men just wanted a reaction because that makes them feel powerful, okay? What makes them not feel powerful is when a woman walks away and doesn't give a damn. I fell for the rage bait. And here's the thing, you guys, haters all around the world are exactly the same. Doesn't matter what they look like or who they are or where they're from. Haters hate because they want a reaction. Their life is so sad, their life is so like just lame that getting a reaction from you is the only interesting thing that's happening to them. And that's their own fault. Like, they're the only ones to blame. And you gotta feel sorry for them. You gotta feel bad for them to live such a sad life. So, oh girl, don't you hate that when you got something in your fucking eyeball? Anyway, through all the healing work that I did, I learned how to hold my tongue. And I obviously I got a lot of practice out of this, right? I had a lot of practice in getting to pause in the moment. I could get hit with the most disgusting, like hideous, disrespectful comment ever. And I would learn how to just like keep my cool. If I did, like, I learned how to walk away, okay? But if I had to react, if I really felt like it was worth saying something, which most of the time I didn't even bother after that, but I would just keep a straight face, total poker face, and I would not even like give them an ounce of my energy, you know what I mean? But most of the time they would say something and I'd be like, that's nice, and then I'd walk away. Because I came to realize that these men are just not worth it, honey. They're not worth it. Haters aren't worth it. Nobody is worth it. Okay. And honestly, that is what gave me my power back. That is what made me feel powerful. Not adding fuel to the fire and just being able to walk away from that, having that control, feeling that trigger in me, but still having the power to walk away, still acting like totally detached and calm and cool. Like, that was so powerful to me. That was the clapback, right? And they hated it. They really did. They were like, what the fuck? So something that I've learned from both skimpy work and being online is that it's so important to find that perfect balance, that sweet spot between having that armor up, okay, like, you know, being protective of yourself and guarded to a certain extent, but not closing off your heart. Still leaving your heart open and vulnerable so that, you know, you can connect. I think it's really easy to experience hate, you know, witness the hate that's out there in the world, and feel like you have to close yourself off. You have to completely shut your emotions down, not let yourself feel, not let yourself be sensitive, not let yourself be open and vulnerable, because there's threats everywhere and people will hurt us and people are mean and people are just not the vibe. It's hard, right? And, you know, I really did go through that phase when I was working as a skimpy. Being around that type of energy, around those types of people, you know, I was really in my hustle that year. I wasn't really going out. I wasn't really hanging around a lot of people my age or like men my age or just, you know, out really in general. Those were really the only types of men I had around me for a full year. I already had a lot of wounds around men. I was already very hurt from the past by men. Experiencing that really just threw a lot of salt onto the wound, and on top of that, experiencing a lot of things that were happening around the world, like conversations that women were having around like how men are today, and like just the problems around those types of men particularly, okay, not all of them. And so, yeah, it was just a very focused area. I became very heartless and I just felt like I had a black heart. I was so full of anger and rage and hate, and it was just a horrible feeling. I realized that that is just not who I want to be. That is never someone that I wanted to be. By letting the hate that exists in the world get to me, I was becoming a part of the problem. Hurt people, hate births hate, right? And I don't want to be part of the problem. I want to be part of the solution to the problem. Okay, that's always been my goal, my intention. I had to learn how to become hardened and resilient, but without like losing my heart, without losing my sensitivity, without losing my feminine energy, my softness. And I actually learned through that job the power of softness, the power of being in my feminine energy, because of how healing it is and how much I prefer to be in that energy. So I want you guys to imagine an invisible force field or a bubble around you, just something that's like impenetrable. And this bubble, this force field in this space where you are, it's all good vibes, all high frequency, lovely vibe. The only things that can actually penetrate the bubble and come into your energy field are the things that are aligned with the energy that you're giving off or the energy that you're trying to embody. Anything negative, anything hurtful or low vibrational doesn't get in. It's just not compatible with your energy, and it bounces straight back off and onto the other person that projected it onto you in the first place. And they're like, damn. This visualization, I really struggle saying that word, is going to help you shift into the correct mindset, a mindset that is grounded, that is self-assured, that is unshakable in the best way. Before you act, before you speak, ask yourself, is this coming from a place of, yeah, I respect myself, and it's coming from a place of like genuine self-respect and standing up for myself, or is it coming from a place of my ego being bruised? A lot of the time when we defend ourselves, it's coming from that place of a triggered ego. And because a lot of us are identified with our ego, we're identified with our thoughts, with our mind, when that is attacked, we feel like our entire being is attacked. A lot of the time when we do defend ourselves, that defensiveness is coming from that ego, okay? And when we're coming from our ego, when we're speaking or acting from a place of ego, it's very emotionally charged, and we're not as in control of our emotions. And that's why words hurt. That's why words sting so much, because we place so much power around them. We give them so much value when we actually have the power to take that value, take that power away. I think that's really helped me with this is my deepening into my spirituality. Connecting to my center, detaching from my mind and my thoughts, and coming to the understanding that, I have the conscious choice between getting to live up here and getting to live in here, okay? Because when we live so much in our mind, when we're identified with the mind, we're identified with the thoughts, the judgment, the criticism, the labels, everything that people project onto us. We really tie that into ourselves. We identify with it. These things called mental constructs, okay? Mental constructs can only exist in the mind because it's our mind that is constructing them, building them in our brain. As soon as we disconnect from the mind chatter, and we get out the loop and we start to ground ourselves, we breathe, we do some meditation, we connect to our spirit, these things start to loosen their control, their hold over us. They don't have as much power. And through that feeling, you actually realize that, oh, wait, I actually have a decision here. I can actually actively choose to, feed into these thoughts, to feed into what this person is saying about me, and to feed into the label or the comment that they've thrown at me or projected onto me. And I also have the conscious choice to choose whether or not I want to make this a part of my story. Obviously, sometimes there's truth in what people are saying. We don't want to completely be naive or just blow people off. But when it's coming from a professional hater, it's like, I have the conscious choice. I get to choose what I want to believe in. I get to choose what I want to identify with. Why would I identify with something that doesn't serve me, that hurts me? You actually do have that power. It's very hard at first, especially if you've been living unconsciously. When I say unconsciously, I mean when you've lived your life, your entire life in your head, and you're so used to instantly attaching yourself to things that happen to you and what people say. It's very hard, but it comes with practice. All right, so now I want to talk about how to alchemize the criticism into power, turning that pain into power, turning that pain into purpose, and really using that criticism to our advantage. One of my best traits as a person, I would have to say, is my ability to turn pain into power and purpose. When I'm, facing an obstacle or a hardship in life, or I'm going through a phase or whatever, I always find a way to work with it so I can up level, so I can glow up, so I can boss up. Anything that's given to me, I'm going to try and work with it best way I can, all right? Growth mindset is very important here. So when we're given that negative criticism, I feel like it's so important to make good use out of it. Because I feel like if we don't make good use out of it, we're going to make bad use out of it. Unless you're someone who just does not care at all. And I don't think there's anyone out there that doesn't care at all. If you are one of those people, then congratulations, that's amazing. But if you're not, and you do feel it, it does hurt you, it does faze you, that's okay, all right? It's good to feel the sting. Feel it, acknowledge it, but don't stay in that place for too long. just long enough to get a sense of direction and awareness about yourself, because that pain, all that shame, right, the pain and the shame that we receive from the criticism is pointing to something deeper, which I've already discussed, right? It's pointing to a wound, it's pointing to an insecurity, but this is where we can use it to our advantage, right? It's showing us where we need to work on within ourselves. It's bringing up a lot of stuff to the light, all right? When we get triggered in a certain way, it gives us the opportunity to question ourselves. Why are we getting triggered? Why does this hurt so badly? Where did this hurt come from? And we could work on, healing that wound, nurturing that wound, so that we can actually show up better, stronger, wiser, smarter, more resilient. If we never had that wound, if we never received that criticism, would we have gone through the journey of transmuting it, of leveling up and becoming who we are now? Probably not. I'm very, very grateful for all the insecurities that I've had and am still currently working through, because it's given me that experience of alchemizing. Another way that we can use that criticism to our advantage is by using it as motivation. Personally for me, if there's not people doubting me or judging me, then I'm not nearly as motivated. When I have someone judging me, or they say that they don't believe in me, or they say that I can't do something, that really lights a fire under my ass, and I'm like, okay, bet, because I'm gonna do that, and I always do. The thing is, I'm not a fighter, all right? Like, if someone hurts me, I'm gonna say what I have to say. I'm gonna clap back peacefully and respectfully, and then I'm gonna dip. My real plan of attack lies in my success, letting them watch me win. It's giving, they said I couldn't, but I did it anyway. It's giving, they said I was fat, now body is tea. It's giving, they bullied me, now they wish they were me. Someone tries to shrink you, the more powerful, the more satisfying it is when you rise anyway. And when you do rise, if you choose to share that depends on you. What really matters is how you're sharing it and who with. Personally for me, I don't like to share during the rising process, besides for maybe a close friend, because a girl needs her support. I share once I've risen, but once I do share, it's not so much like a direct share, like on my story, unless it's like a personal milestone, then I will do that because I deserve to celebrate myself, period. But if I have gone through some kind of success, you'll probably just see me looking super fine. Like you would have noticed that I've gone through like a massive glow up, and my energy is like super lit, and you're probably thinking, oh my God, how did she do it? That is very much the vibe. Like, I let things speak for themselves these days. During the building stages of my life, I'm very private. I don't like people in my business. I like to work towards things, build on things, while nobody knows where I'm at or what I'm doing or what I look like. It's just so much more peaceful when people are just not in my business. And I think I had to learn that the hard way, because back in the day, I had to open my mouth about everything, because I was coming from that place of insecurity and low self-worth, and I had to gain people's approval, the admiration, the validation, to hoist that hoist that self-worth up, to give me a little boost, right? And so I constantly, I was hustling, I was really like pushing myself to do something, to be someone. I wanted people to see me winning so badly, because I wanted to feel desired, I wanted to feel acknowledged. It's a very exhausting way to live life. Just don't do that. Don't be like that. Life is so much more peaceful when you're just detached from what people think, how they perceive you, and you're able to validate yourself, and you're able to know that what you're doing, who you are, is enough, right? Society pushes it into us that we need to be constantly doing and achieving and being productive and being successful, and then showing everyone how successful and amazing we are. That really calms down once you find a sense of inner fulfillment. But that's a whole nother topic. Okay, let's just stay on topic here. So there's a saying, and I love this saying, it's one of my favorites: climb the tallest mountain, not so that others can see you, but so that you can enjoy the view. But the amazing thing is, people see you anyway. They see you enjoying the view. And if they get mad at that, if they get mad at you enjoying the view, they're just mad because they're not enjoying the view. They're mad that it's not them. And what makes them even more mad is the fact that they had the chance to climb that mountain, all right? They had the capability. but they lacked the courage. You did what they could have done, but they chose to not do, and that makes them feel a type of way. It really does. Another way to make good use of the criticism is by owning the narrative, telling your story, because obviously there's a lot of shame that comes with the criticism that we receive. And the thing is, shame can only exist when it's hidden. Shame can only exist in the dark. So when we're open, when we're vulnerable, when we're expressive about the criticism that we receive and how it makes us feel, how it hurt us, or just the idea of criticism in general, this is a very empowering thing. This is a great way for you to take your power back, because you're like basically switching out of victim mode. You're not allowing yourself to be the victim. People are no longer judging you, they're admiring you. YouTube has been one of the most healing experiences for me, because it really taught me it taught me a lot around vulnerability. It required me to speak on things, speak on topics that, I was very passionate about or I had experience around, but I still felt a sense of shame or fear, insecurity around. And I had to learn how to push through that so that I could help people, right? I knew there were people around the world in my position or who felt the way that I felt, and guidance needed some support, and I felt like I was the person to do that. And I even felt a sense of shame around having that sensitivity or having that insecurity around being judged, because for so long I've lived with this mask of having to be this bad bitch who just doesn't care, who's super strong and super independent and super like rock solid and doesn't let anything get to her. But there are so many experiences that I've gone through in the past 2 years that have really allowed me to flourish in my feminine energy and to allow more sensitivity, to allow more vulnerability into my life, to just accept myself and, believe that two things can be true at the same time. You can be hard and soft out there, and you can also be shy. Through that, I was like, you know what? I can still be a bad bitch who doesn't give a damn, who's strong, who's assertive, who's confident, but I can also be a human being who has emotions, who has feelings, who has sensitivity. And I'm going to embrace both sides of these parts of me, because they're both so important and so special. I need to honor both of them. And I think the defining thing here is that I don't let that insecurity run me. I run it. Who'll go around this town tonight? I own that shit. I run that shit. And being able to do that, and on a public stage, in the sense of like social media, right? That's very, very, very empowering. Plus, I know that it will help other people get past their own sense of shame and fear, and that is just like the most fulfilling feeling for me. Okay, last one. Criticism is really good for helping us find our inner voice. Let me talk about what I mean. When everyone around us is doubting us, it's hard not to doubt ourselves, right? I totally get it. So each of us has our internal compass, an internal map, guidance system. And it's always taking us in the right direction. It's leading us there through our behaviors, through our feelings, through our thoughts. So when we receive criticism, opinions, judgment, whatever, from the outside, which you will, it's inevitable, especially when you're working on such a public, visible stage, right? It is imperative in those moments that you really lock in, that you really anchor into yourself. And you say to yourself, even if no one else sees it in me, I must see it for myself. Because as I stated earlier, not everyone is going to understand you. Not everyone is going to get you. Not everyone is going to support you. They don't need to. You need to get yourself. You need to stand by yourself. There is a reason why you started that business. There is a reason why you started showing up more authentically. There's a reason why you quit that job. There's a reason why you started speaking to that person again. Okay? There's a reason why you started that podcast channel. Whatever, there's a reason why you did the things that you've done or the things that you're doing. You got to really trust in that feeling. If it's something that is very authentic and it makes you feel good, like it's a fulfilling thing, then trust in that. And the thing is, right, the universe has a funny way of testing your sense of self-trust every time it becomes stronger. Every time you trust your own voice over someone else's opinion, that inner channel grows stronger and stronger. And so the world gets louder. It feels like the world is against you. The world is constantly making it harder for you to be who you are, to trust in yourself. But at the same time, that voice, that inner voice is getting stronger and stronger, that intuition, it becomes clarity. Like I'm at a point now where I have absolutely no doubt in my thoughts, in my opinions, in what I believe is right for me. Being misunderstood, being rejected, being ridiculed, being criticized, these are all ongoing themes in my life ever since I was pretty much born, okay? I'm not unfamiliar to the experience. I just can't help but feel like if I wasn't being put in the position where my self-trust was being constantly tested, okay, my voice is being constantly tested, then that's not something that I would need to use in the future. Does that make sense? Being given the opportunities to strengthen that. It's being strengthened, it's being tested for a reason. So when you're on your path of purpose and you feel like everyone is going against you, you feel like life is going against you, you feel like it's really hard and you're doubting yourself, just know that it's those tests, those obstacles wouldn't be there if what you were doing wasn't aligned. I've had YouTube for a few years now and I haven't grown in the sense of subscribers, but emotionally, I have grown so much. I've learned so much about myself. YouTube has been the biggest mirror. It's given me the opportunity to work through so many wounds, so many insecurities. I've really found myself through this channel. When I would make a video and it would get like 20 views, I would take that as rejection, but I continued to push through. I continued to show up anyway because it really taught me how to lean on myself and to like watch my videos, listen to my voice and trust in what I was saying, believe in what I was saying. Just because it got no views, just because no one is interacting with my video or with me, has no effect on my sense of self-worth, right? It doesn't mean that my words, what I have to offer the world doesn't have value, doesn't have meaning, okay? I really feel like I had to go through those experiences until I could actually start growing properly and like show up in the way that I was supposed to show up. As a wrap, as always, thank you for joining me today. If there is one thing I hope you take away from this, it's that criticism doesn't have to define you, let it refine you. It doesn't have to crush you. You can choose what you want to carry, what you want to leave behind. That is a conscious choice, all right? You have the power to make that move. Let it bring you closer to your truth, not further away from it, all right? Let it remind you of who the F you are, not who you aren't. To trust in that inner voice. Remember to keep showing up regardless. Keep trusting in that inner voice because the more you do, the less permission you need from other people. And remember, there's a reason why you're doing what you do. Don't let the haters get in your way, sis. Keep rising, keep expressing, keep being your unique, amazing, beautiful self. If this helped you out, if this resonated with you, please let me know in the comments. Give me a little like and also hit that subscribe button, all right? And come along for the ride, come along for the journey with me because I would love to have you here. It's a great time over here. And if you feel like this video might help anyone else, please send it through to on their way to their house. And if you guys need any help around anything, if you need me to be your girl to boost your confidence, honestly, you can hit up my Instagram. I'll leave the link in the description. Send me a little message and let's get cute, let's get personal, all right? I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.